dear brothers and sisters, what times are we in? It is a big question to so many people. Is it the end times that were mentioned in the scripture, or rather in the Quran, and maybe some other sacred writings? What times are we in? And what do we ought to do as a people? Men and women, the youth, and the children of our nations. These are tough times. We need to open our eyes because at these times there are so many responses, there are so many things going through our minds. Indeed, there is confusion. To deny that there is confusion in our world today, in our nations, will be making a mistake. It is a reality that we believe there is a confusion. And how I and you are going to overcome this confusion? We need to go back to our roots. Have we lost our way? Or what is going on? And if something is happening at these times, where is it happening? This must be questions that we need to question ourselves. Perhaps we may not get an answer, but it is still good to ask ourselves. At this moment, so many persons have lost their jobs. So many people have no ground. They don't know where to start, even after the COVID-19. So many countries are in turmoil. There are wars going on still in Yemen and other parts of the world. People are still getting guns to shoot each other, to kill each other. Some persons do not express not a point of fear for COVID-19. We know that history repeats itself, as it was said by one of the writers. And if history repeats itself, we know for sure that there was a pandemic as such of a kind in about 1918 that took somehow millions of people as well as this that we have today. And it shows us a steadfastness of a people that are strong, of a people who are ready to survive, of a people who are ready to live. And I think I and you belong to this lineage that want to live. But if we really want to live, we must realize and we must be able to read the signs of the times. It might not be the end of the times, but something somehow is to be communicated to us via this pandemic. For those who might be silent, maybe not saying nothing, or maybe not thinking twice, something is wrong because there is something that is going on. Even if we cannot address it, we cannot deny that there must be a sort of discernment going deep within our minds. What is happening? What does the nature want to teach us? What does God want to teach us? What does God want to communicate with all of us? Is it our ancestors who are in revenge? What is going on? These questions are there. But I'm not here so much to go back to the questions. And I'm not here neither to answer the questions that each of us are asking, but I'm here to remind you that time matters. Time belongs to God, and God has no time because he can act at any time. So for him, time doesn't matter much. And so it is that we must be. If it is readiness, if you're doing something good, do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Do it now because that matters to yourself and to your neighbor. It is beneficial. Do something to benefit another person, and you shall see how much God can do to you. It's a time that we ought to think that we do not only exist for our own existence, but we exist to assist others and to accompany others on this journey. A time we realize that we really have nothing for our own, and everything that we have belongs to each other. A time that we come to put into practice the Ubuntu philosophy, where it counts togetherness, it counts the handshake for each other, even though practically there is no handshake. But the handshake is still there because it has gone to the family members. It is a time that a man realizes that his wife somehow is important, and so he goes back home early. He spends more time with his wife. A time women likewise realize that somehow their kids, their children, and their husbands and the entire family is important to them. A time that grandmothers have experienced a sort of calmness because they are left alone at home, and now everyone is back at home. A time also for fights and quarrels because there is not much expected. There is not much coming in. Food is less. There is less providence in terms of money. Everything has decreased. Everything has declined. Perhaps except love to those who understand the genuine and sincere love. Because if everything would decrease, I suppose that love should increase and never decrease. Because in the midst of all this, what can sustain I and you? It's only love. First of all, the love of God, and secondly, the love of neighbor. I also notice that people are hungry. And I noticed that this is psychologically fitting because it has been said earlier by our ancestors that an angry man is a hungry man. An angry woman is a hungry woman. So what we expect when things are in the midst at the times that we are in? It's a time that you give people chances to express themselves. Perhaps people are going to get extra anger. Then you may have to know how to deal with it. They are extraordinary time for every aspect and in every area of our lives. The pastors have to look for means to survive. They have to feed their families, as you know, persons who work in the houses of God. The expectation is that their providence comes from the house of God. And we realize that has declined as well. So things are not in as we think. They're not in plan, they're not in space. And so we need to think about these things and know where we stand. It is a time that I call for what I would term as heart stability. Let your heart be stable in such a way that you're not disturbed by any storm that will come along in life. It's so difficult if I say this because some of us are expected to pay their rent. They're expected to pay their water bills, light bills. And this is a reality. But will getting angry help you? Will complaining help you? Will stress and distress help you? Will creating confusion help you? Or it is having a stability of heart, a stability of your emotions, a stability of your mind. I don't mean that you stay asleep, that you keep asleep, but I mean that you remain aligned, you look at the signs of the times, you understand what is happening, but at the same time that your heart remain untroubled, that you remain strong and continue to get strong, continue to get harder in your life, continue to melt your heart for God, because that is important. Perhaps it is a time that I would encourage that you read the scripture or the more. Read your Bible. Perhaps we have not been doing that much. So this is the time. And for those who are accustomed to Quran, read it and read it fervently. And not only reading, but seek to understand. Perhaps the message Allah wants to communicate. It is important that we discern the signs of the times. Perhaps we may not understand, but with God, all things are possible. To the people of all faiths, I call upon you. Go back to that which you believe, and you believe in that supernatural powers, and you believe in a power that can bring transformation. Go back to that. Perhaps that can heal our world. And then we need to look at ourselves, deep within ourselves. What is that that is still imperfect? What is that that would have caused, all that is happening? We need to look at those things. It is good to keep our minds alert, to keep our heart alert, so that we are attuned and not caught and ready. I encourage you that you will read the signs of the times. I encourage you to think big. I encourage you to question, and question positively. I encourage you to use your time well. Be creative as much as you can. It is important. Because an idle mind, it was said earlier, it is the devil's workshop. It is a time that people can plan evil. I'm not very much surprised to see that one of the men from one of the countries did stab to death his only wife who was pregnant. And one more day later, one of the youngsters was stoned to death after stealing a mobile phone. And the worst of it, his mother was tearless because She said she has been warning him. She has been telling him and providing all occasions for him to help himself, creating jobs for him, looking for jobs, looking for schools where he can get training, technical trainings, and so forth. But lastly, he appears to have been lazy. He decided not to work. Worse with this COVID-19. It was said that sometime he stole a phone from a lady who was selling just eggs. Was taken to the police custody, and his grandmother and his uncles pleaded, and he was sent home with a bill of $500,000. And now, after they had pleaded with the mother went for him, and he was freed, and he continued with his wicked ways. So let us be watchful. At this time, the devil is alert, and he can take our minds far, far, far. For those who have a special, and each of you have a special calling, it's a time to reflect on it, because these are difficult times, times of trials. And the devil is going to fill you up with so many thoughts. So many thoughts will come into your mind. And you'll try to make a graph, like a mathematical graph. You'll try to draw a map, even for your life. As I do sometime, and you do as well, maybe. But let us come with a positive answer, knowing that we cannot solve it all, but we have someone to trust. We have a God whom we trust. Stick to your strong faith, faith that directs you to better attitudes, to be of a better character, because that is needful in our world today. Keep happy, keep your smile amidst difficulties, and God will bless you. Continue to subscribe. We are helping each other. Continue to share. Be of a lion heart.